Hi, Shane Jesse Christmas here. I'm going to read a poem by this guy, Fernando Pessoa. It's called In the Terrible Night. In the terrible night, natural substance of all nights. In the night of insomnia, natural substance of all my nights. I remember, awake in tossing drowsiness. I remember what I've done and what I might have done in life. I remember, and an anguish spreads all through me like a physical chill or a fear. The irreparable of my past, this is the real corpse. All the other corpses may very well be illusion. All the dead may be alive somewhere else. All my own past moments may be existing somewhere, in the illusion of space and time, in the falsity of elapsing. But what I was not, what I did not do, what I did not even dream, what only now I see I ought to have done, what only now I clearly see I ought to have been. This is what is dead beyond all the gods. This, and it was, after all, the best of me, is what not even the gods bring to life. If at a certain point I had turned to the left instead of to the right, if at a certain moment I had said yes instead of no, or no instead of yes, if in a certain conversation I had hit on the phrases which only now in this half-sleep I elaborate, if all this had been so, I would be different today, and perhaps the whole universe would be insensibly brought to be different as well. But I did not turn in the direction which is irreparably lost, nor turn or even think of turning, and only now I perceive it. But I did not say no or say yes, and only now see what I didn't say. But the phrases I failed to say surge up in me at present, all of them, clear, inevitable, natural. The conversation gathered inconclusively, the whole matter resolved. But only now what never was, nor indeed shall be, hurts. What I have missed definitely holds no sort of hope in any sort of metaphysical system. Maybe I could bring what I have dreamed to some other world, but could I bring to another world the things I forgot to dream? These, yes, the dreams going begging, are the real corpse. I bury it in my heart forever, for all time, for all universes. In this night when I can't sleep and peace encircles me, like a truth which I've no share in, and the moonlight outside, like a hope I do not have, is invisible to me. Now that's a poem by Fernando Pessoa. It was written on the 11th of the 5th, 1928. Now, it's a bit of a strange thing to say that the poem is by Fernando Pessoa, because he was this guy from Portugal, and I'm just going to try and remember this off the top of my head, and just the names on the back here, but he was a guy from Portugal who, from what I sort of like understand, and maybe more from just reading his work, he didn't really he didn't belong to any of these avant-garde groups that were flourishing in Europe at the time. He wasn't a Dadaist, and he wasn't didn't what eventually became surrealism. Wasn't a part of anything like that. But he was, I suppose, for want of a better term, avant-garde. Now, he did this strange thing where he wrote under 4 personas. And they weren't. So he wrote under 3 personas. He had 4. One was Fernando Pessoa, so four personas, I suppose. If Fernando Pessoa is a persona unto itself. And so that wasn't really a poem by Fernando Pessoa. It was actually a poem by Alvaro de Campos, and it wasn't just different names for different names that he wrote under. Each name had a different style of poetry. So Alvaro is probably the most, I suppose, the one that has the most sort of like free verse sort of aspects to it, and is probably the most deep in a kind of rumination sense. It's the most the one where he's thinking the most about, I suppose, what it all means. And I suppose that the reason why I like that poem is, and I suppose that persona is that it has a lot of ruminations on life, and but it's kind of like this aspect of it that he's done all the thinking on, you know, who he is and all those, you know, eternal questions and what he is and what everything means, and he's just come to this point, this nice kind of, yeah, he's dissatisfied with everything, but an acceptance, you know, that and then this acceptance that everything is a little bit absurd, but and if you kind of accept it, then you can not be angry about it. You can still be angry about it, but you still he's come to this, you know, it's absurd. Everything's absurd. So rather than it bogs you down, you can then sort of like move through it and kind of keep working. You know, he's not going to get stymied and so that he can't write or be creative or even just live. He's worked through it. He realizes it's, you know, futile and absurd, and there actually is no answers. And he's better off front knowing that. That's what I got from the poem. I might be completely wrong, and maybe that's what I get from, I suppose, this guy in general. I was going to read a poem of mine now. It's called Crooks versus Crooks. You can just see a nice light come on my face there because I'm just reading it off my iPad. I read this last night and I realised sort of no way that guy's brilliant. But I was just reading, I read this and I hadn't read this for ages and I hadn't read Pessoa for ages, and I realised there was a similar tone to it, and I thought it was quite, you know, what's the word, synchronicity to it. But yeah, Crooks versus Crooks. Your voice was urgent, a woman's voice. You expected your life to burn, but it just went on its way, miserably brooding. 3 times you were suspected of arson. 3 times nothing eventuated. You always held a man's education closely in your arms. You loved your arms, your men. You called your men thieves and let them talk to you with indefinable undertones which crept upon you slowly. They moved like remodeled answering machines on another shelf. One day you realized that people were more than wives or husbands. All up, even as physical adults, people were just hungry, unclothed children crawling their hands in rifles and empty cartridges. Your childhood moved like a surly, stiff-haired dog running from violence and abuse without a word of explanation. No judgment now in your bones. No cigarettes in your lungs. No hamburgers in your stomach, French fries in your brain. You light a candle. I see your shoulder. I make little progress in disrobing. 100 hot dogs wrapped in the paper of your police report. Your eyes had the look of an old fellow's eyes, crunched and hastened in silence that hung over the assembled rats. More rats than we knew. Your skin felt chilly, yet you were unaware. You were seldom unaware. But for a period, you were there. That's my reading for the Digital Roots reading series. Thank you for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll just press this button.